age podcast, Rocking the Journey. And this time we are covering Up for Change ideas. And we have with us Maddy Kennedy. Maddy is an ex-CFO, or she's still a CFO in fact, but she worked as a CFO for over 25 years in the private and public sector. She worked with M&As, she worked in life sciences, IPOs, fund raising, and she has recently taken up another, I'm going to say a hobby, but it's not, it's a passion, and it's turned into another business. In 2010, Maddy adopted 3 children from the same family, and this also prompted a change in her career. And she used her skills as a CFO to create a new business helping SMEs called CFO for Growth. And we're also going to talk about this wonderful new business that Maddy has, which is about actually sustainable fashion as well. And that is a business called Quid, so Quo. So welcome, Maddy.
Thank you.
Delighted to have you here. So firstly, Maddy, let's talk about that shift from a CFO role, full on by the sounds of it, working primarily, I think, with SMEs and life sciences and doing a lot of those things that CFOs do. And then that change for you in life where you decided, okay, I need a more flexibility in my life, adopting my children. And that led you to be quite creative, I think, about how you then worked and ran your life and the work-life balance. So I'd love to hear about that.
So I was working in SMEs has always been my speciality, to be honest, because I prefer the environment within an SME. You get so much more of the feel, touch points, many more touch points in the company. But I was working probably 6.5 days a week. I was flying all over the place. We were looking at acquisitions or fundraisings or whatever. And then I'd often get a call on a Sunday afternoon. We needed to touch up the presentation for the meetings the following day. So it was very much, very, very full on, and I loved it. But we made the decision to adopt. And to be perfectly honest, it was one of the requirements that we were told that I couldn't continue working at the level I was, and they wouldn't approve us. Mm-hmm. So it meant that we had to make a change. They didn't tell me I couldn't start anything else, though. And so it's, how do I make this work? Now, over the time, I know there's lots of businesses that are growing that need that sort of CFO support, but they don't necessarily need somebody full time. And they certainly can't afford somebody full time, but to have that level of expertise brought into the business is really useful. So I set myself up to have that flexibility. So the flexibility I need in my life, to have the flexibility for the smaller businesses to be there when they needed it, and I could fit that in around the children when they were young. I mean, they're much older now, but when they were younger, I could be there for school in the morning, I could be there for coming home from school in the afternoon, and then I could pick up at 7 o'clock once they'd gone to bed. Yeah.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost a mirror. Your life is almost a mirror of a lot of SMEs' lives. Because yes. I run an SME, and you have to be flexible as well, don't you? So it's quite interesting. So you really get that.
Yeah, it's not 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. It just doesn't work like that. But equally, I can't suddenly say on a Sunday afternoon when we're out in the park, actually, I've got to go back and do this presentation. So it was fitting it in around everything else that was going on.
And how's that gone for you? Just in terms of your own lifestyle, but also actually running a business in that way and helping, I think, other women, because I'm really fascinated. At the moment, we find that a lot of women are talking to us about not necessarily always hitting a glass ceiling in business, although that can happen, but actually they want to be more entrepreneurial. They want to be more in control of their own life now, particularly perhaps when they get to 45, 50, 55, and they want to start their own businesses. So what would you say to people like that, having done your own and being an ex-CFO and putting up?
Well, I definitely say do it, because having that flexibility is fantastic. Being able to just so it's something really stupid. There was a lot going on last night. So yesterday I made the dinner. Yesterday afternoon I made the dinner. I didn't have to fit it into the 15 minutes I had from getting out of the car into the house to having to go back out again. I managed to fit it in. And then the work that I didn't do yesterday afternoon, I finished last night.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just being able to juggle that. And it doesn't matter how much people say they'll be flexible. They'll be flexible if you're there Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, I need to finish at 3 today, but I'll be back at 5. Just doesn't seem to cut it. I have to say over the last few months it's got better, but, you know, over the last 10 years, it's still the case that flexible is only so flexible.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is a challenge often for people setting up is the monetization, you know, of a business. So you have this wonderful idea, and perhaps actually we'll go on to talk about quid so quo in a minute, but you know, you have this idea of something you'd like to set up, but then the fear is, can I make money out of it? And
can I make enough money out of it?
And what's for you that particularly as a CFO, I guess, because you're looking into the business of an SME and saying, okay, all sounds lovely, but where's the money coming from? What sort of guidance can you give people, things that they can think about for that?
Well, I'm just going to do a hybrid for a while, you know, to support the business. So I can still retain some of my contracts as a CFO or a non-exec director, which will give me that base level of income that will pay the mortgage. You know, and take the worry away from that. And then the savings that I've got, I can use to develop the business. You know, and I'm not worrying about meeting the bills or whatever. But I've got a certain amount of savings that I can use to buy the things that I need to, or invest in the website, or whatever.
And you and I talked about, you know, when you do set up a business, you know, you said some great things to me about, you know, how do you monetize? How do you define it? You know, what do you set up as the kind of guidance or guiding principles for yourself? And how are you going to attract people? You know, what sort of social media groups do you use and all of that? So let's you know, use your new business as an example perhaps of that process, because I'm fascinated with sort of why you set up the business. I know it was a passion of yours, but talk to us about that, because it actually happened during lockdown, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. So it's always been a passion of mine. I've always sewed, and it's something I've done from childhood all the way through. I even did it at A level, and whilst I was at college, to give myself some extra income, I used to make wedding dresses and ball gowns or fancy dress outfits. So that, you know, that would top up my grant, which is what we used to get. Don't anymore. So, you know, so I did that, but then I didn't do an awful lot for many years, and then as we went into lockdown, you know, because I have time back again, you know, that commuting time and so on, you know, I started to get my sewing machine out again and do things and alter things and do those bits of sewing that I hadn't done before, or a piece of fabric that I bought and I think I'm going to make it up now, you know, and actually use it. And I just loved it. And the days flew by, you know, and I know lockdown's been terrible for a lot of people, but I've loved it because I've had the time to do things. And so I've now reorganized the house. And so I'm now in my new office with all my sewing kit behind me, hidden by the screen.
Do you have some of your dresses behind you? Have you have anything?
The dresses are on the clothes rail opposite.
Oh, good. Well, we're going to have a look in a minute.
I'll wheel one or two of them over.
Excellent.
You know, so I've been able to set up and be able to do that and do the two. I love fabric. I love texture, and how you can make fabric sit, and what it looks like made up as opposed to being on a flat roll. Yeah, so, but what I've had to learn is social media. So, you know, I've been on Facebook and Twitter and so on, you know, as a casual observer, I suppose, but now I actually have to use it. So how do I use it? I've done a couple of free online courses to tell me, you know, what I need to do. And there's a couple of really good ones that talk to you about tagging on Instagram, and it's not the frequency of your posting, it's the regularity of your posting, you know, and posting everywhere. And I've actually just spent this morning setting up my website. So, you know, pulling in photographs and so on. Need to be much better at taking pictures, I know that, but I've been exploring all the different apps that I can use to, you know, so how can I do this myself?
Amazing. And so so when you're creating, when you're looking at things through your wardrobe and maybe other people's wardrobe, so let's talk about who comes to you and who connects with you on this. You're looking for garments that can be changed. Yes. Obviously there's things that can be altered, but this is a little bit different, isn't it? Because you're actually almost designing and adding to a garment, and possibly sometimes fundamentally changing the garment to work with you.
So I had a long black, and I can show it to you if I don't work terribly well on the camera, but I had a long black, round neck, long sleeved, knee length dress that pilled in various places, where they pill down the sides and so on. But the wool itself was lovely. So what can I do with it? So I'll just show you.
Brilliant.
I don't know if you can see this. The light may not work because it's black there, but I just turn it.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Still here.
Yeah.
The side panels, but I've added a panel at the front and actually a really useful pocket.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So you've still got the Bardot neck, which I love, and the sleeves and so on. But it just, I had some of this spare left over from something else, and if you're going out and you don't need that. Handy pocket.
And I love the quilting. It's great. It actually completely changes the garment, I imagine, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. That's
brilliant.
So this isn't something that was again, it's black because a lot of things I do wear are black. Mm-hmm. But again, this is something that I made. Can you see?
I can. It's beautiful. Oh no, you've got a little Union Jack or a flag to the right.
It's puppy time at the moment. It's a sleeveless biker jacket. Oh,
that's brilliant. That's amazing. And I love it. Is it a little rose or a?
This is a poppy here.
Yeah, poppy. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's just a film.
Brilliant. Oh, that's stunning.
On the other side. It's just adding those little bits of detail.
And I love the shape. The gathering
as well, because I don't want everybody to look the same.
No.
And it's trying to be a bit different.
That's so cool. And Maddy, then do people what do they do? How do people go about connecting with you and saying, look, I've got 4 or 5 things, they're a bit old, or they're my favorite things, but they're a bit knackered now. And so it's almost like re-energizing, refreshing those clothes, isn't it?
Yeah, so again, this is early days for me. So one thing I did a year or so ago for Lent actually was so every year for Lent we give something up, just because it's tradition, not because of particular beliefs or anything, but tradition. But last year I decided that I was going to take one thing out of my wardrobe every day. So 40 things for 40 days, and actually to begin with it was really easy. But as it got later and later in the 40 days, it got quite difficult, and I had to be quite. I even took out a Amanda Wakely floor length sequin dress, beautiful. But when am I going to wear it? Yeah. Anyway, so everything went onto a clothes rail, and then I invited a load of friends over to do the same thing, and we had a swap night. And it was completely anonymous, and nobody was making any judgments about who'd put what on the rails. It was all anonymous, but you can go and pick something off the rail, and if you like it, then you can have it and take it away, and then you donate your own thing. But also what you can do is say, but what I can do is I can shorten that for you, or I can take it in, or it doesn't quite fit, or what if I've shortened the sleeves, or maybe add some feather or something like that. I made a red dress that's got feathers all the way down the side, and it's just so striking and very simple, but those little bits of embellishment make quite a big difference.
That's a brilliant idea. I have never thought of that. I mean, I definitely regularly clear my wardrobe out, particularly I think since lockdown, found that we just don't need so many clothes, do we? We're not going out as much, and so certainly not buying as much, but also still clearing out things. But there's such a good idea actually to do this swap with friends. I think that's a brilliant idea.
It's difficult to get it going because everybody was quite nervous about it. One of my friends brought in a beautiful brown leather jacket, and the others were saying I couldn't possibly take it. But if it's sitting in my wardrobe doing nothing, I would so much rather you wore it. A couple of glasses of wine later,
Everyone's fighting over the leather jacket.
Yeah, exactly. And actually the girl that took it, she wears it so often and it looks fantastic on her. So, you know, and it's just having things that as just sitting there on their own in the wardrobe, not being used, and I'd much rather somebody else loved them.
And it's a really, I mean, there's so many businesses, aren't there now? I can't remember what the projections are for secondhand clothes as well, but there is such a growth in that market.
Huge.
You know,
Yeah,
companies like Vestair, there's a company I use called Phoenix, based in Wimbledon. There are so many of these companies which, again, you know, of course you pay a little bit, but actually relative to the original retail price. And some of these are, you know, just beautiful vintage pieces. And
absolutely.
very cost effective. It's such a great idea, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I do it. You know, I buy things off eBay, but you know, you've got vintage, you've got Depop, and so on. There's another one, Asuko, that's just starting up, and they do a charitable donation. So actually, you're doing two things together. They're a really early stage business, but that again is something else. So you're sort of giving back as well, you know, at the same time.
That's pretty.
You find a lot of the big Asuko, ESOOKO. You find a lot of the big retailers as well are doing their own resale sites. So COS, whose clothes are lovely, very very well made and nicely structured. They've got a resale site. So your COS clothes you can resell, and then on Facebook there's 2 or 3 other buy and sell. So Hush and Mint Velvet and so on. They've you know, there's Facebook sites that you can resell those particular things.
I didn't know that. That's brilliant. What a great idea. So I love what you're doing. I love it because it's a passion of yours. I was talking to someone else the other week, and she started jewelry making, coming out of the corporate world, and wanted to find a way through into something else that she had a passion for. And this idea of being able to perhaps balance life with, I mean, you know, obviously you may well have a passion for being a CFO. It sounds like you do in your own right, but something that also perhaps, I think you said to me, it's almost about balancing or bringing together, blending together the creativity and passion and the passion for business and the skill set of business.
Yes.
And it feels like being able to do both those things is an extraordinary lifestyle and life now for you.
Yes, it is. But it also raises loads of questions as well. So I'm quite firm that my Facebook is my private life and my LinkedIn is my business life.
Okay.
But I'm also becoming very aware that social media is your window for business.
Mm-hmm.
So do I start mixing the two? That's, you know, that's the question. So do I promote Quid So Quo on my LinkedIn page? Because I spent a lot of time on my LinkedIn being a CFO with my contacts and the groups and the followings and so on that I use, being very firm that, you know, that's for that side of the business. But my Quid So Quo is so completely different. At what point do I cross it over, or do I cross it over? You know, and it's various questions that I need to answer.
That's such a good point, Maddy, and it'd be really interesting actually to share our kind of experiences on that. I mean, obviously, when we set up Rock My Age, I was never a big social media person. In fact, the opposite. I just never used social media. I think there's about 2 posts on my personal Facebook page. And it was a massive climb for me, you know, a hill to climb for me to get on social media. I have a wonderful partner, Debbie Binner, who so helped me very patiently to get on social media and to try it and test with no judgment about, you know, how I was doing it. But we set up obviously a Facebook page as a business. Yes. Rather than using my personal Facebook page. Of course, there's a link because you can repost things. But so I think having a business Facebook page helped me, that it wasn't my personal Facebook page, but a business. That was the first thing. And I, like you, having worked in the corporate world for, you know, 30 plus years, used LinkedIn very much purely as a business profile piece. What I found was, I think it's about relevancy. It was for me, where I posted things on LinkedIn from Rock My Age that I think are relevant to that audience, but I don't post everything, absolutely not. So there's things that I think, you know, if we're talking to someone who has a leadership, or someone like yourself that, you know, is moving from corporate into something else, it may be somebody that is doing philanthropy, or, and aligned to corporate ambition. Whatever those things are, I tend to post things that I think that audience through LinkedIn will find interesting.
Yes,
other than that, we tend to stick with Facebook, with Instagram.
Yeah.
And also what we have found, and thank you for doing this today, that the podcast approach has worked really well for us. And you said there you've done some free workshops. It feels like that human interface and interaction, particularly I think, we all learned to do it more readily through lockdown, is a really good avenue.
Yes.
I don't know how you found your workshops and doing that.
Yes, I mean, just speaking to people and actually saying what you're doing, and that's a bit of an odd thing to say, I think, but unless you are very clear about what you're doing, people don't know, they're not going to guess. So this is what I'm looking to build up, and what I'm looking to do. I can do the CFO work, that's fine. I've got my audience, I've got my contacts and so on. But if I'm going to build this up, I need to say to people, I make wedding dresses.
Yes.
The wedding dresses for the smaller weddings. I'm not the great big ball gowns and so on. There's plenty of other people to do that. Yes. But when we can go back to doing this, weddings are smaller with smaller numbers of people, so dresses are slightly smaller. And same thing with evening dresses, cocktail dresses. We don't go to balls anymore, but we do go for dinners. So you need dresses that you can sit down in and walk in and breathe in.
Yes.
And
that's such a good point. Yeah. Because we're not dressing up in those big long dresses, are we? Very rarely. I mean, I think I'd probably go to an event like a black tie event once a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually where we are today, it's all about what's happening from here upwards. Yeah. So collars are massive this year. Yeah. So I've been taking off collars from worn out old shirts and making them collars that you can just wear underneath your jumper.
Yes.
I've got lace collars that you can just clip on.
Yeah.
And so on.
Fascinating that as well, because Debbie and I do some impact coaching for people around how you work on Zoom or how you work on WebEx, and to have more impact. And it's very interesting, isn't it, about clothes, because just having a little bit of padding, or a little, we're not going back to huge shoulder pads, although at the moment this year there's quite a lot of shoulder padding out, but I don't know if that's a kind of Zoom connection. But this idea of just having something little that raises you up, particularly I'm quite small, so anything that's just brings that lift a little bit is actually really interesting. And then what you can wear that's not too shiny or too patterned, for example, on screen. So things like that I think are really interesting. And what colours lift your skin, and what colours make your skin perhaps darker. So I think that or just tired looking, shouldn't say darker, tired looking. So I think that's really fascinating, isn't it? So you can help people with that as well, really, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wear black most of the time. I didn't today because I'm aware that you've got to be made up properly to wear black, and it's got to be the right environment. And the sun that is shining in through this window, and then that would just black on me. So so I've made a conscious decision not to be in black.
No. And actually, black can look really striking, and you've got wonderful hair, so I imagine that black, you would look very striking in black. And do you wear black and white, or?
Yes, black and white.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you've got that real colouring for that, haven't you?
With that bit of flash of colour, there's always got to be that flash of colour, whether it's a pair of pink suede shoes, or a scarf, or a bag, or whatever, or a piece of jewellery. But there's always got to be a flash of colour somewhere. Whereas monochrome is a little dull.
And going back to your point about connecting on this, and how people know that you're doing this. I mean, one of the things I was fascinated recently, a friend of mine has started a business quite a few months ago, early in spring, helping English people move to France through Brexit, because it's a real minefield, French bureaucracy to get what they call the carte de séjour, carte vitale. But what was interesting was she found so much connection through in that context, expat sites, but women were really helpful to her. Women on those sites were saying, wow, this is great, you're setting this up, apart from the obvious, can you help me or whatever, was actually this extraordinary support from other women when you set up a business. And have you found that?
Yes, and women do that research and investigate and find out, and how can we make this happen, and talk to each other. And actually, some of my networking events that I go to, the women there always know somebody that can help, always.
Yeah.
And just making those connections. Yes, absolutely. They are. We do that work to find out.
I think, and it's just really nice, isn't it? Because then you've got that support there. If you need something, some help, you can reach out and get it. So what next, Maddy? So we are actually we are right now into another lockdown. So I presume that will give you some time, perhaps,
yes,
to do some more of this. But is this something now that you will continue, the two businesses running alongside?
Absolutely. So now it's all about time management. So I've got my my non-exec director CFO work. I'm trying to put into the mornings, and I say to everybody I'm available in the mornings, and then from the afternoons I can just run on for as long as I like. So very shortly I will have a very large wooden table here, and I'll then be able to just sit at my desk and do the work that I need to do in the mornings, and then swivel round and
and you'll have all your clothes there. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And how have your family found this new other part of you, or this? I mean, they obviously knew this part of you, but having this other business and running from home, I guess, as well, which you have been doing for some time.
Yeah, well, half of them hate me being at home all the time, but that's kids for you. But my daughter, my middle daughter, she really benefited, because leftovers and remnants are really important, because don't throw anything away, because you can always use it. And she was talking about a particular style that she wanted, so I thought, well, I'm pretty sure I can do something about that. And I happened to have some black jersey, so I went away and I cut up a pattern into the style that she wanted. She wanted a high neck but with a V-neck, so the space here, long sleeved and close fitting, but they like the crop tops. So I just thought, well, I don't need much fabric for that, and I cut up what I had and then made it. And she said, what are you doing? I said, just give me a few minutes, I'll be there in a second. And I said, right, try this on, and I put it on and fitted brilliantly. And it was exactly what she wanted. And then I had enough to make her a short skirt as well to go with it. So she immediately had that whole outfit. And then I showed her how we can amend other things. A couple of skirts that she thought were a bit frumpy, so I can make them shorter. And then just adding a bit of embellishment. She likes things with chains on and so on. So I bought a length of chain and showed her how to sew it on. So she's benefited enormously, and my husband has as well. So almost everything, he does a lot of brewing, and everything needs covering to keep it warm. Mm-hmm. So I've made thermal coverings for him, and that sort of thing. So
brilliant. Got a real extension of the initial idea as well there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, doing things in the house, I've reorganized the house and reused everything. So I've almost had to buy nothing to set up my sewing room and his office by just reusing things, shortening curtains or whatever.
That's brilliant, Maddy. So how can people get in contact with you for this business? If they've got something in their wardrobe that want to have a chat with you, how can they get in contact with you?
So I'm setting up my website at the moment, which is quidsewquo.com.
Okay.
SEW SewQuo. And my email address is maddy@quidsewquo.com.
Brilliant. I'm sure there'll be a rush of people saying, hey, I've got this, certainly me. I'm going to be looking through my wardrobe now. Maddy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I really wish you the very best with both businesses, because as an SME, actually, I know how important a CFO is alongside ones when you're setting up a business and running a business, and likewise, really good luck with the new business.
Thank you, and thank you for your time.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation today, and if you'd like to listen to more conversations with inspiring women, do look at our website, rockmyage.com, or register to have them delivered direct to your inbox. Until next time.